Lone Ranger.
Welcome back to Retro Wednesday at the Titanium Hangar. This is Mike. Today I want to talk to you about the 1980 Gabriel Lone Ranger toy line. Now this is a very small toy line. There's only 5 figures, 3 horses. Did double up with some horses, and I did kind of spread out to another Gabriel toy line we'll talk about. But this is a pretty cool little toy line. It's fun to collect because there's not a whole lot to go after. And, you know, one of the pieces, the playset, the cardboard playset, is really hard to get. There's reproductions out there, so that's not a problem for me. But let's get into taking a look at this. Let's take a little trip down memory lane. Let's go to a much simpler time on this Retro Wednesday. Hi-Yo Silver, away, coming up. As a kid of the 80s, I remember spending the weekends with my grandmother, and my grandfather loved Westerns, and we always seemed to watch Lone Ranger sometime over the course of the weekend. Now, I kind of have these fond memories of cream of wheat made by the grandmother while I was watching this, so I kind of crave some cream of wheat while I watched the show, but it was a good show. It's kind of some clean, wholesome fun, but of course there is some violence involved, but it's clean violence the way they did it back then. It's a show from the 50s. It ran for 5 seasons. Then they made it into a movie. Now I believe the toy line is actually based off the movie, but the movie was still based off of the show, so there was all of that incorporated into it. But the show itself, go back and rewatch it. You can watch the movie on YouTube. You can watch the TV series on YouTube. I believe all 5 seasons are here. I only watched a few episodes and had a little bit of fun doing it, but let me know what you think about that. We're going to end up talking about the Lone Ranger himself. Before we get into that, I want to do a size comparison. This is how he compares to G.I. Joe, which this is a really fun version of Gung Ho in his Marine Dress Blues. And then Greedo here, who is very relevant because of the HasLab funding for the Mos Eisley Cantina right now. And would you populate that with vintage figures? Of course I would. Now looking at this, this is where it fit in your toys in the 80s. In 1980, well, it was a bit past 80 by the time we got to this, but you know where I'm going with this size comparison. The Lone Ranger was available in 2 different variations. You can get him by himself, or you can get him in a 2-pack with his silver horse. So we can take a look at the horses here in a little bit, but right now we're just going to look at the figures and the accessories that they come with and what all gimmicks or lack thereof. The figure itself actually looks pretty good. He's got his mask, his hat. It works. The hat is molded on, so thank goodness you don't have to try to search for one that fell off. He's got his red scarf, which is in the show and the movie, and then he has his get up here with his outfit. Very tight fitting, almost like a nylon type of leisure suit, but it was very tight fitting suit, which was kind of probably something that was interesting back in the day. Now he does have his holsters. Now his holsters actually hold the guns. As you can see, I don't have the guns in there. I will put that in here to show it, but I am afraid that the horses fall over, the guns get lost, so I keep all my guns in, all my accessories in a baggie for both the toy lines, just so I don't lose them. And it's sad, it's scary, but it is what it is. Anyhow, cool looking figure overall. Now he has articulation with head side to side. He has his arms that go out like this, and he can ride the horse. That's the whole point of his articulation. So it's not really going to be a really great articulation for running or stances or anything like that. It's riding a horse or standing up straight or standing up and holding his 2 guns. Here he is holding his 2 guns. Maybe your paint's better on yours than mine. I think I have enough that everything in my collection is almost complete. I think I'm missing one of these guns to make an entire complete set. But it doesn't bother me that much at all because I don't display them with the guns because I'm terrified. Now, they're tiny, ultra tiny, and here we go with it. It will holster into his holsters here, like so, and they will jut out just a little bit like a real gun should. That is how it should work into there. Part of why the paint is rubbed off, part of why I didn't touch mine up, because I knew I would mess this up. Anyway, here's how it looks from behind. And he would sit on his horse just fine with him. I am just terrified I'm going to lose him. And probably why so many of these are without those tiny little guns. But this is a cool feature I would have loved to have had with so many other figures, including G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe did not holster enough weapons. There's a lot of built-in stuff, like etched in kind of stuff that didn't come off of the Joes. This is really cool. Really awesome. Probably one of the most awesome features on an 80s toy line figure. So we're going to get into talking about Tonto. He also came in a 2-pack with his horse Scout. And Scout was sold separate. Tonto sold separate or sold as a 2-pack. That is just the way it was sold back in the day. And guess what? Getting the horse 2-pack is harder than getting just the horse or just Tonto or both the horse and Tonto. The 2-pack itself was much harder. So Tonto, of course, was the friend of Lone Ranger. Now, in the TV show, Tonto actually kind of sort of helped nurse him back to health and then made the mask, and Lone Ranger was born as the last Texas Ranger that survived the attack from the Cavendish gang. Anyway, he is best friend, and he took down Cavendish. Best friend of good old Lone Ranger. Now, he looks pretty good. He's got a feather in his hair, dark hair, kind of a brown costume. Does kind of look boring, but if you look at it, he's got a holster, but he's also got a place to put his knife. He's got a knife. Hardest accessory to get in this toy line, by far, is that stupid little knife. But I got one. And then here is the gun will go into there. So he's kind of a combination of old and new. Now, I have to admit, I will admit, I live in Oklahoma, and we have a very rich Native American culture here. And to watch this and just how people refer to Native Americans, they refer to them as the Injuns and as in a very negative connotation. That is what cowboy and Indian shows are, but it just felt a little weird watching it. But I always felt like Tonto's such a great dude, and that was one of those weird things about the show and the movie, the fact that someone as good as him can be referred to in a negative light. But let's get him with his stuff in his hands, and here we go. And here is this knife in his hand. Very, 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 very challenging. Let me get this done. And here he is with his knife in his hand, his gun in his hand, and Tonto. And of course, there he is on his horse. We will be discussing horses later on. I just want to do a whole separate segment about the horses, but I'm showing it right now so you can see what he looks like on his wonderful steed. So next up, we're looking at Bush Cavendish, and I believe he came with his horse Smoke, the black horse with the brown saddle and reins that we will look at later on. Now, I think I got that right. I've set everything up from everything that I remember as collecting this, and I think it's all right. Now, the good thing about this figure is, well, a couple things. First of all, he does mimic a lot of things with the Lone Ranger, with the hat that is permanently molded on. And he has some white sleeves, a blue outfit, long boots. Okay, they're like Pretty Woman boots, but he's got a red belt. Looking at the back here, this is one holster, one gun. Thank goodness I don't have to track down two of these stupid tiny guns. When I bought this lot, it was at a toy show for $40, and it came with some guns and all the horses and some of the stuff, but I had to track down a few more accessories and I think one more figure to make this work. And I did get almost double of everything at that lot. $40, but it cost me probably another $100 to finish it out. Easily another $100. But he is with his gun. Only one gun. That is awesome. And his horse. So there it is. Now, I haven't watched the whole movie from the 80s. I plan to go back and watch that. But from what I understand, bad guy horse. Makes sense? All right, so next up we have the General George Custard. And I will be honest with you, I don't have all of these to have their gun. I keep using the same gun in some of these, but I also don't have a second one of him. And I think I had to resort to eBay to get this guy, just to have one. But he uses the same gun. He only has one holster, same gun. He has kind of this scarf going on in the front, yellow right here. Very similar blue to this guy going on over here. Now, what I have done is doubled up on these black horses. Not intentionally, but I did want something for every figure to ride in my display. That was my plan, and I got it pretty cheap. And I was trying to get probably the best horse for the main one, and then just kind of spilled over. But anyway, pretty cool looking figure overall. And here is his gun. Holding it, they all hold it really well. I will say that way better than what I'm kind of comparing this line to, Kenner Indiana Jones. and they hold their guns better. Really good job. This is a lot of problems here. General George Custer. So next we're going to get up into talking about Buffalo Bill Cody. And I have him on a Zorro horse with a different saddle. Kind of just pieced together some extras so I can have another horse on the shelf. I just don't care. He didn't get a specified horse for himself. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But with that, this figure does look pretty cool. And I like that he has lots of paint apps. He's got a hair, eyes, face, his goatee, a true goatee, actually. And then, of course, he's got this stuff going on right here. Red shirt, got a jacket, giant gun, which he can't hold properly. So it's just kind of like, oh, I'm posing with this gun, and that's it. But that's all he's able to do. And, of course, he's got those Pretty Woman boots on, too. And cool-looking figure overall. Definitely looks, well, from what I understand, it looks like from the show and from the movie. And I will be watching that movie pretty soon because I'm having a lot of fun with this toy line. But this is the Cody figure, the Buffalo Bill Cody. So let's now get into looking at the horses and kind of why the horses attracted me to this line. I know you're used to YouTubers acting like they know every single thing about vintage toys and that they've known it since inception at birth. And it just came along knowing everything, but I don't. I'm learning as I go. And when I first started collecting the Indiana Jones, I got my friend's collection for about $200. And then I started tracing down some of the stuff that was missing in his collection. He was missing the horse. And after like 5 or 6 auctions, I found one for $100. Now they're considerably more than that. I'm glad I bought his collection when I did. But when I was looking online, I saw this Gabriel horse, and I thought, this horse here looks a lot like the Kenner one, and I thought they were almost the same horse, so that kind of got my attention on this line. So when I saw him at a toy show for $40 for a whole bunch of horses and figures and stuff, I jumped on it just because, A, they'd look good with the Indiana Jones, and B, because I wanted one for good old Henry Jones Sr. But I tracked another one of these down. I actually had to pay twice as much to get it, but I have one for Henry Jones Sr. now. But this is a fun toy line. I'm glad I was introduced to it the way I was here, because I never had these as a kid. Didn't even know they made them as a kid. But that's why I'm in on the horse. Now, the difference is this one here has the galloping feature, which makes it very unstable. I'll admit, this doesn't have the feature, and it's still pretty unstable. You have to kind of get the legs in that position to make it stand really well. So here we are with the 3 horses that come in the toy line. We have Silver, we have, I don't have them memorized, Silver, and we have Scout, and Smoke. Silver, Scout, and Smoke. I believe I have the correct color of reins and saddle and everything set up for this. Now the Lone Ranger has a red stripe on the saddle. It is darker, it's more black. This is more dark brown, and this is light brown. And I think I have it all right. Now they do also come with these stirrups, and you can pop them off and pop them back on. They're hard to find. I really find this to be the hardest part to get, the stirrups and, of course, unbroken reins. If the reins are broken, there's really not much you can do. Maybe glue them back. But the stirrups can pop off and pop back on. So just find another, like a broken horse or something, and get some stirrups. That's something that you could do. Now, looking at this, it's kind of fun to have these horses. But they reuse the horse for Zorro. And I'm going to show that here in just a bit so you can see the difference between the Zorro horse and this horse. Comparing this horse to the Zorro horse, I want to point out that this one here has like a white spot on the top, no white spot here. Down below it has white stuff on the lower legs and no white stuff down there. So it is a jet black horse. And the saddle is blue, the reins are blue versus brown. But it's all the same stuff, just cast in slightly different colors. In fact, less paint apps on the Zorro. Now, I do have a couple of parts and pieces I'm looking for my Zorro collection before I do a collection video on this, but it's still kind of fun. A very similar toy line, much smaller toy line, oddly enough, but there it is, reuse to the Zorro toy line, and makes a lot of sense. Lastly, I do want to talk about this Melloway playset. I'm using it as a backdrop. This is the Carson City. I did get this picture from the PlayedStallions.com. I will link that down below. And it's kind of a cool site. There's also Brick Mantooth on YouTube. And so I got some information from this site, from them, from some other sites, while I was collecting this. But I think people make reproductions of this, and with it, it's kind of cool to be able to still get your hands on something really, really hard to get. There is, I believe, the original sales offering for this, but Western Town, and then of course Carson City. So maybe there's two of them that are out there. If I get my hands on these, probably a reproduction. I'm not spending ridiculous money for originals, but if I get a reproduction, I will do a separate video. A lot of fun down the road. So I hope you enjoyed this look at the Gabriel 1980 Lone Ranger toy line, the 3.75 inch only. And it's kind of a fun toy line. It mixes in with your Joes, your Star Wars, and pretty much everything else that's out there during that time frame. And of course, with Gabriel's own toy line with the Zorro. But I found this kind of fun and satisfying to quickly get it and complete it because the way I got it. But I'm curious what you think. Do you have these? Are you interested in these? Was it fun to kind of see a little tidbits of the show? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think about the Lone Ranger in the comments below. Like, subscribe, tell your hanger out.
Hey, where's Collins? He was right behind us a while ago. I saw him. Look! It's an ambush, men. Spread out and find cover, quick!
While you sleep, me bury other rangers over there. Make grave for men. Bring belongings here. Their face wounds all healed now.
Let me have the mask. There. It fits perfectly. Good job, Tonto.
Not defend yourself?
Oh, I'll shoot if I have to. But I'll shoot the wound. A Lone Ranger.
Kimosabe, me help you fight outlaw.
You'll be a lot of help. We'll ride together.
Me glad, Kimosabe. Me fight good for you.
Take cover, Tonto.